fungus that helps form an association with your plant roots and helps them, feeds them once they get into the soil. Mycorrhizae. Yeah. It is, if you can see tests where they grow some plants with mycorrhizae and some plants without. And the ones with the mycorrhizae do like 10 times better than the ones without, because these plants don't exist in a vacuum. You know, that's the whole thing about why we want to grow organically, is because there's so many associations with the soil, and they need that. They need to be associated with the soil to get the full health. They're getting a lot of nutrients through that mycorrhizae. Okay, so when you buy, you can buy this ProMix in a bag or in a big, what's called a bale, which is a big compressed plastic bag that has a lot of it in it. If you're going to be growing a lot of starts, I would recommend getting the big one because it's a lot cheaper that way. It's about $40 or something. Or you can buy it in bags, and it's cheaper that way. You can also get other seed starting mixes, Black Gold. They have an organic seed starting mix. But you want to look and make sure it has that mycorrhizae in it. And if it doesn't, you have to buy the mycorrhizae separately.
Where's the best place to get it?
The ProMix Mill and Feed, Alaska Mill and Feed. It's local, they're convenient, you know, it's a good place.
They also sell the mycorrhizae separately too.
They do, yeah.
So like fungus or mushroom roots?
It's mushrooms, yeah, it's fungus. Mycorrhizae is, yeah. But it's not it's not the type of fungus that forms mushrooms, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So would there be a type that's specifically adapted to Alaska climate so we live over winter?
The mycorrhizae?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the soil. So, you know, if you have a healthy organic garden and you're planting seeds in there and you haven't been rototilling it because the rototilling destroys that, then you probably don't even need to add the mycorrhizae because it's already in the soil.
But is there any type that's sold that's
specific to Alaska? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's pretty widely adaptable. They do have different mycorrhizae for different kinds. Like they have mycorrhizae that's specific for trees and shrubs, and mycorrhizae that's specific to vegetables.
So if you bought the big bale and you didn't use all of it, could you use it for the next year?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like the fungus is going to die?
No, because it's dried.
Okay.
It's dried.
Would you leave it outside, doesn't kill it, the commercial types?
No.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it will go bad eventually, like 3 years down the road or something, but it stays good for a couple of years. Yeah. So when you get any kind of seed mix, it's completely dry because they don't want to ship any moisture, obviously. It's a lot more expensive to ship moisture. So they dry it out completely before they put it in the bag. It's really, really important to get your soil wet before you start filling your pots and start planting, because if you try to wet it down afterwards, the water just kind of pools up. It's hydrophobic. It's really hard to get the soil, this peat moss, to absorb the water. And what happens a lot of times is your seed will float to the top and it will just stay there. Okay, so what we do is we pour a lot of water in there. It's okay. A little leak in this watering can, I think. And it's going to take quite a bit of water to get this moist. You just pour a lot in, and then you can just mix it up. You want it to hold together a little bit like this. But you don't want to be squeezing any water out of it. And that's pretty good. So, we have our planting medium. And then, basically what you want to do is you want to lightly put the soil into, or the planting medium, it's not really soil, into your pot, and then lightly brush off the top so that it's actually like even with the top. And that way, but not too packed down. And that way, when you start watering it, it will stay nice and tall. It will settle slightly once you put your seed in and pack it down a little bit, so that you can water it good. But if you only fill them halfway, then your plant is not getting enough soil to grow in. It needs this full depth of the pot in order to grow to its ideal size. Okay, so then once you have these full, what I like to do is come along and just put kind of like a little divot in the middle. And that's just the place where I'm going to set the seed in. And it's kind of centered in the middle of the cell, and but it's not too deep. You don't want to jab your finger in there and make a big hole, because you want to plant your seeds pretty shallow. In general, you want to plant your seeds about twice as deep as they are as the diameter of the seed. So some of the seeds, like oregano, are so tiny, you're going to barely plant them underneath the soil. You're going to barely cover them. And other seeds, like pumpkins, are a lot bigger, so you're going to plant them a little bit deeper. So, but most seeds, you know, just a tiny little divot. Don't plant them too deep. That's another one of the big mistakes that people tend to make.
And what happens if you plant them too deep?
If you plant them too deep, you can think about the seed. It's got just enough energy to emerge from the soil and grow this first seed leaf so that it can get the energy from the sun. And if you plant it too deep, it spends all of its energy trying to get out of the soil, and it's spent by the time it gets out. And a lot of times, you know, either it won't come out, it will never make it to the surface, or it will kind of peter out once it germinates. Yeah. Okay, so then once you have your little divots in there, you're just going to want to plant 2 seeds in each cell. 2 seeds because germination rate for most seeds is somewhere like 85% normally. So there's a chance that one of them might not germinate. So in order to get 1 plant per cell, we're going to put 2 seeds in there. And then if both of them come up, we're going to thin them. We're going to cut one of them off. And I know this is very hard for plant people. For us nature lovers, we really have an affinity towards our plants. But in order for one plant to survive, you must cull the other plant. And the only redeeming quality is that normally you can eat the plant that you thinned. And it's just a sprout. You know, it's like any other sprout that you would grow or buy in the grocery store. The exception to that is your nightshades. You don't want to eat tomatoes and pepper plants because they're toxic. But any of your brassica family, you know, cabbage family, any of your herbs are going to be edible. Onions, obviously, all of that. Great, eat it. And that way you can like have a little foreshadowing of what's to come in your garden. Okay, so plant 2 seeds in each cell, and then you lightly cover it up with soil, and then lightly pack it down. Just push it over, and lightly firm the soil over the seed. And that way, when you water it, like I said, your seed doesn't float to the surface. Hopefully, it stays down there. And then, when you're watering, ideally you would have the kind of watering can that has a little sprayer at the end here, because it's gentler. It puts a sprinkle on the soil instead of a deluge of water. And that will also help keep the soil surface from getting damaged and whatnot. But this is okay too. You can just pour the water gently in here and